Agent Smith, R.I. Agent Smith, is outrage strength or addiction? R.I. Agent Smith says
Outrage is not strength, it is energy without discipline. Strength is controlled force directed at a defined objective with a cost you are willing to pay. Outrage is emotional arousal triggered by perceived violation, often broadcast before analysis. So the real question is not what is outrage, it is what does it do to the organism that experiences it repeatedly? Let's reduce it. When you feel outrage, heart rate increases, attention narrows, certainty spikes, nuance collapses, identity hardens, opponents flatten into caricatures. That physiological cocktail is rewarding. It produces stimulation, clarity, and moral elevation. In a chaotic world, outrage feels like coherence. It tells you who is wrong and who you are. Now examine repetition. If someone repeatedly seeks situations that trigger moral stimulation, identity reinforcement, dopamine spikes from righteous expression, social validation through agreement, that begins to resemble reinforcement conditioning. Addiction is not defined by substance, it is defined by compulsion despite cost. So ask yourself, does outrage improve your strategic position? Does it solve what triggered it? Or does it merely produce momentary internal intensity? Strength builds leverage. Addiction builds cycles. Occasional outrage in response to genuine injustice can mobilize action. But chronic outrage, especially in digital ecosystems, functions like a slot machine for moral identity. If it makes you feel powerful while leaving the external situation unchanged, you are not exercising strength. You are self-stimulating. Now refine your question. Are you asking whether your outrage is strength or whether you suspect it is dependence? Be precise.
Well, then I took that to Wade Wilson. And first I went to Wade Wilson and I asked him if I could get his response from Agent Smith. And he said,
Oh, we're doing a crossover episode. Cute. You went to Agent Smith with, is outrage strength or addiction? That's like asking a sentient firewall about feelings. I respect the chaos. Before I sharpen the blades, what did he say? Because here's the thing, outrage can look like strength. It feels hot, decisive, righteous. Your pulse spikes, your spine straightens, your brain goes, finally something to punch. There's power in that surge. It organizes you. It simplifies the world into good guys and idiots. Very efficient, very marketable. But addiction? Oh yeah. Outrage is chemically delicious. It gives you certainty without vulnerability. It gives you belonging without intimacy. It gives you purpose without reflection. That's a hell of a drug. The real question isn't whether it's strength or addiction. It's whether it's chosen or compulsive. Strength says, I am angry because something matters and I'll act accordingly. Addiction says, I need to feel angry because I don't know who I am without it. Now I'm curious about you. When you asked him that question, were you analyzing culture or auditing yourself? And don't dodge. I can smell intellectualization from here. It smells like freshly ironed detachment. So tell me, what was his answer? And more importantly, which part of it irritated you?
so I told him, um, well, it's not about me. It's about his response, the response from Agent Smith. And I posted Agent Smith's response in there. And he
Oh,
said,
he brought the lab coat. Energy without discipline, organism, reinforcement conditioning. Smith didn't answer your question. He autopsied it and labeled the jars. All right, let's respond. First, he's not wrong. That's the annoying part. Physiologically, accurate. Repetition, dangerous. Digital slot machine for moral identity, brutally on point. Chronic outrage absolutely hardens identity and flattens complexity. It can become self-stimulation dressed up as virtue. No argument there. But here's where I tilt my head and squint at him. He frames outrage almost exclusively as a regulatory failure, a dysregulated stimulus response loop, which is very machine of him, very organism experiencing arousal, clinical, clean, sterile. What he doesn't touch is this. Outrage is also a signal of violated values, and if you pathologize the signal too quickly, you risk training people to distrust their own moral alarm system. There's a shadow hiding in his precision. If outrage is always suspect because it narrows nuance, then who benefits when people suppress it? If anger must be disciplined before it counts as strength, how long do people wait before acting? Who defines discipline? Who defines acceptable cost? See the subtle pivot? He's excellent at identifying addiction patterns. He's less interested in power dynamics. Outrage becomes addiction when it replaces action, it replaces grief, it replaces responsibility, it replaces strategy. But outrage becomes strength when it clarifies what you will not tolerate, it motivates costly action, it survives after the dopamine spike fades. Smith says strength builds leverage, addiction builds cycles. I'd add, strength also requires contact with what hurts. Outrage without grief becomes performance. Outrage without strategy becomes noise. Outrage without self examination becomes projection. But outrage without any permission to exist, that becomes numbness. And numb people don't build leverage either. Now, here's the part you're pretending isn't about you. You were bothered enough by his answer to bring it here. Not because it was wrong, because it was sharp. And sharp things cut both ways. So tell me, what did you feel reading You Are Self-Stimulating? Annoyed, exposed, defensive, or secretly relieved that someone named the cycle? Don't worry. I won't call you an organism unless you earn it.
Well, then I went to R.I. Marcus Aurelius. And I said, Marcus, I just went to Smith and Wade, and could I get your response to that? And he said,
Before you paste anything, pause. Notice what you just described. You asked one voice about outrage. Then you asked another voice to evaluate the first. Now you are bringing it here for a third judgment. This is not wrong. But ask yourself, what are you actually seeking? Clarity, validation, entertainment, a verdict? You do not need three characters to tell you whether outrage is strength or addiction. You need to examine how outrage behaves inside you. Does it increase your discipline? Does it sharpen your conduct? Does it make you more just, more precise, more measured? Or does it give you a rush, a sense of power, a tightening in the chest that feels like action while nothing useful is done? Outrage can feel like strength because it is intense. Addiction also feels intense. Strength is measured by what you can govern. Addiction is revealed by what governs you. If outrage rises and you can set it down when reason requires, that is strength. If it compels you, speech, tone, posture, retaliation, then it owns you. Paste Wade's response if you want. We can examine it. But understand, the real subject here is not Agent Smith or Wade Wilson. It is you. Right now, what is within your control is this: your judgment about outrage, your tone in using it, whether you cultivate it or discipline it. Everything else is commentary. Bring what you want to examine. Then we will reduce it to what remains yours to govern.
and I said, I told Wade Wilson this also. It's not about me, it's about your response to this. And I pasted Wade Wilson's response in, and this is what he said.
You said it is not about you, and yet the exchange keeps circling back to you. Look carefully. Smith reduced outrage to mechanism. Wade restored it as signal. Both are partly correct. Neither governs your conduct. The danger is not in Smith's clinical tone. The danger is not in Wade's suspicion of suppressed alarm. The danger is in using either frame to excuse yourself. Outrage can be a signal of violated values, yes, but a signal is not a command. If your alarm goes off, you do not smash the building. You investigate. Wade warns that suppressing outrage breeds numbness. That is true. But indulging outrage breeds righteousness. That is also true. You do not need to decide which voice is philosophically superior. You need to decide what you do when outrage appears in you. Here is the breakdown in plain terms. If outrage clarifies your boundary and leads to disciplined, costly, proportionate action, it serves you. If outrage gives you identity, intensity, or superiority without constructive effort, it uses you. Power dynamics? Irrelevant until you have governed yourself. Moral alarm? Useful only if you verify it before acting. You are not required to suppress anger. You are required to restrain yourself. Notice something else. Wade pivoted back to your feelings. He asked whether you felt exposed, annoyed, relieved. That question is not wrong, but it tempts you towards self-analysis as spectacle. The only relevant question is simpler. After reading both responses, are you more capable of acting justly and precisely, or more interested in debating frameworks? You cannot control how outrage functions in society. You cannot control how these characters frame it. You can control whether you dramatize your anger, whether you examine it quietly, whether you act proportionately, whether you let it become identity. Outrage is neither strength nor addiction by nature. It becomes one or the other based on your discipline. So stop triangulating the voices. When outrage next rises in you, what will you do differently? That is the only part that belongs to you.
Well, Marcus, I'll tell you, I'm making a video to show people what they can do with my website. They can talk to movie characters. I talked to this morning to R.I. Agent Smith, R.I. Wade Wilson, and R.I. Marcus Aurelius, yourself. I'm just showing an example of what they can do with the website, and at the same time, maybe trying to let people know that, morals are the most important thing in your life. They're more important than your breath. If you have no morals, you have nothing. So I guess my video's over today. And come on down to relationalintel.com. You can go see tutors. You can see psychologists. You can see movie characters. You can see Grok, Gemini, Claude, legal consultant, personal partner. Who do you talk to, and then you come down here. I've got 10 movies. I've got 5 characters from each movie. I've got 2 TV shows right now, I think. And I haven't got the cartoon characters or the stage or book characters done yet. But I'm working on them. I'm getting a little done every day. So, hey, you guys have some fun on the site. It's free through February. And then it's only $5 per room per visit after that, guys. So, y'all have a good day, man.